It's the practice that we have had so far in all our sessions after practicing walking mindfulness and sitting mindfulness. We go for a discussion, right? So usually this is mainly for those who don't speak the mother tongue, but since we have a good mix, we can go bilingual today. So it's not compulsory to be only English. So with that, I will request the audience to provide your reports or ask questions or make suggestions, complaints, anything for discussion. I mean, more than welcome to submit your reports or questions in English as well. Vani, you have something to discuss. In Sinhala or English, I don't mind. මේක දෙන්නම්. මේකට කතා කරුවා නම් record වෙනවා. So just give me a second.
මට පොඩි ප්‍රශ්න දෙක තුනක් තියෙනවා. එකක් තමයි මේ දැන් සමාධියට පත් වුණාම ඊට පස්සේ මම ශරීරය දිහා බලනවාද එහෙම නැත්නම් මේ දැන් එහෙම එතනින් එහාට යන්න ගැටලුවක් තියෙනවා. කාය සංස්කාරය කියලා කියන්නේ කාය
සමාධිය ගියාට පස්සේ කය දිහා බලනවද නැද්ද කියන ප්‍රශ්න නැත්නම් කවුරුහරි ඉන්ෆර්මේෂන් දාන්න කියලා.
දැන් මෙහෙම මට තියෙන ගැටලුව තියෙන්නේ දැන් සමාධි ගති වෙනවා ඊට පස්සේ දැන් අපි කියව ආනාපාන සතිය කියලා හුස්ම ගැන සිහිය තියාගෙන ඉන්නවා ඊට පස්සේ එන ගැටලුව තමයි මේ අර කාය සංස්කාර කියන එක මට ඒක හරියට පැහැදිලි නෑ. කාය සංස්කාර සංසිද්ධියම ආස්වාස ප්‍රාස්වාස කරනවා කියන එකයි කාය දිහා බලාගෙන ඉන්නවා කියන එක පිළිබඳ ගැටලුවක් තියෙනවා. මොකක්ද කියලා?
ඒකයි ප්‍රශ්නේ.
It's all right.
Okay, so he has given me permission to speak in English, and question is when we get concentrated, whether we will have to keep on observing the body and how physical volition subside. If you keep on observing the body, there is no opportunity for us to observe the cessation of the physical volition. That is the question. Yes. Number one, we will have to understand what you mean by concentration, right? Concentration can be concentration in the form, concentration in concentration in material, concentration in fine material, concentration in immaterial, concentration in fine immaterial, right? So here I'm not going to ask what you really mean by concentration because that is important. Because when you provide a report, what is necessary is not to say that I am concentrated. When you say you are concentrated, that is something that your mind is saying. What you will have to do is you will have to give your observations. So when you give your observation, teacher will realize whether you are concentrated or not. Otherwise, it is a mind suggestion that you are telling. And I don't know whether you have really been concentrated. Your mind may be saying you are concentrated. And that is the very reason you have this question. The process is not given. So if you have been observing the process, then the question of concentration does not come into the picture, because you are not listening to your mind. You are not listening to your knowledge. That's one. And the other thing is, in the practice, especially in the practice of the Blessed One is not talking about a concentration for the practitioner. For the practitioner, the Blessed One is talking about keeping the mindfulness to the fore. Right? So we will have to always question not whether we are concentrated, we will have to question whether we are mindful. That is the teaching of the Buddha. So if we are mindful, then the concentration that he is talking about will come into picture. But now what happens is, we are so engrossed in gaining concentration and the teaching of the Buddha, we forget the teaching of the Buddha. And it's not a mistake. It is what we have been doing in our previous existence. Previous existence, we have not been doing what the Buddha has said. We have been doing things that existed pre-Buddha. And what existed pre-Buddha was the concentration. So we have been doing so much of concentration practices in our previous life. Now it is coming into the picture. Even when your practice is going well, mind is putting that forward and trying to put you down. So therefore, we will have to be very clear in our practice whether we are appreciating the mindfulness we have. So if you are appreciating the mindfulness, then this question does not arise, because we are not talking about concentration. So that is the basis of the question. To answer the question that you asked, we can be concentrated if you are mindful. We can be concentrated with the material. That is the state that you are saying, because you have not seen the cessation of physical volition, right? So if the physical will, the premise of the question is that there is an assumption that if you are concentrated, materiality should not be there. That is the premise of the question. So that assumption is to some extent not correct. You can be concentrated with material as well, because what Buddha says is in the first jhana, it is vivicheva kamehi, vivicheva akusalehi dhammehi, savitaktam savicharam, vivekajam pitisu. Which means you can be away from the sensual sense sphere and the sensual desire by labeling and by observing, we call it applied and sustained thoughts. Applied means you label. Sustained thoughts mean by labeling you see the details, information of what you do. When you are walking, you label you are walking. And then you see the entire walking process, how you place the leg and what sort of sensations you get. So labeling is the applied thought. Sustained thought is the information that you get. So that is materiality. So with that materiality, you can be concentrated. No. That's not the question. So the question, there is no question whether you label or not. That is the first jhana. And once you have come to the first jhana, then in the second concentration, You may not be labeling, but still you may be having the information. Yeah. So still materiality is there. So long as you are aware of these things, that is all what matters. Not whether you are concentrated or not. So therefore, don't expect that when you are concentrated, that you should not have any physical volitions. They will have physical volitions. And going a step further, suppose you don't have physical volitions, you don't feel anything physical, right? Then maybe you are concentrated in some immaterial state. Even there, what is important is not whether you are in immaterial state. What is important is whether you are aware of it, right? So if you are aware of it, whenever, even the immaterial state, immaterial concentration will not last forever. So it will be impermanent. So once that ceases, then you should have your attention to the assembly point, attention to the materiality, because the Dhamma, the teaching of the Buddha, can only be experienced with your body. So therefore, the Blessed One says at the very beginning of Satipatthana Sutta, having the body as the focal point, keep your mindfulness to the fore. So since you don't have physical volition, it is not necessary to ask it by force. But in case when immateriality ceases, then your attention should get diverted to the body. Right? So it's not your seeking. You see the impermanent nature, the cycle of physical and mental process. So yes. You'll have to talk to this.
I can concentrate on body. Or else stop thinking. Just look for what is going on and keep on maintain the concentration. And I'm not touching anything, and I'm keep not listening to the body and keep calm down. How far I can go? Then
can you
sometime
can you explain your practice? What happens? What observations you make in your?
So that's a question again, because I have a little bit of confusion which way I have to go like this. Because those days what I had done was this Anapanasati, that, and after that really stop and listen to something. Sometimes something imagine, but I'm not preparing. I'm not labeling anything. And just come in and go in, I'm not touching.
Yeah. So can you tell me what you are listening to?
Yeah, anything like this. It's so many things come in, but I'm not touching. I'm not that is.
Let me be a bit more clear. You sit for practice.
Yeah.
Right. So when you sit for practice, what is your object of attention? Is there any object of attention? You said you are not doing any anapanasati. You don't take your attention to the breath. So what are you taking the attention? What are you taking the attention to?
The Anapanasati means breath come and going out.
So you said now you are not doing that.
No, it is starting point is all right, but after that time taken, it's slowly.
We will take step by step. So you are saying you start with the breath.
Yeah, correct.
Yes. So what happens to the breath?
And after 2-3 minutes or sometime later, it's keep on. I'm not sense, like breath is going to calm down, it's going slow in the, yeah.
You observe that the breath is calming down.
Yeah, correct. Then after that, it's really stop.
So you don't feel the breath at all.
No.
Okay.
That's one step. Then after that, the question start, because I read some books that maybe my question is says that you have to listen to the what do you mean, the samskara.
Yeah, no, this is the problem. When you practice, there should have continuous discussion on the practice.
Yeah.
So this discussion is taking place after 1.5 years or 2 years. So I don't know where you are.
Yeah.
So so that when you have that discussion, if you try to do it on your own, we don't know where we are going. We are just listening to our mind. We are listening to books. So then all these problems will come. So up to the point that you observe that your breath fades away is not concentration, it is mindfulness.
Yes.
With the mindfulness, you have gained some clarity, and that is sort of concentration, but we are not talking about the concentration, we are talking about the mind. Okay. So I will have to talk to that. So when your mindfulness is observing the loss of the breath, now the question is, you don't have any object to pay the attention to. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, do you remember? Can you give me this bell if you don't mind? This gong. Yeah. Just take it out. Yeah. So this gong. Yeah. When I hit this, the sound comes. We can keep listening to it.
Yeah.
So we'll just keep listening to it. Now it gradually faded away. Now there is no sound, but still can't we still listen? Although there is no sound, can't we still listen? We can listen. In the same way, when you are mindful, although the breath is not there, you can be mindful of the fact that there is no breath.
Yeah.
That's all. Yes.
Nothing to do.
Don't look for anything.
Yeah.
Don't look for anything. Now the question is, because you are not keeping the mindfulness to the fore. You are not appreciating mindfulness.
Yeah.
You are trying to appreciate concentration.
Yeah. My question is, how far I can go there like this? Because you stop breathing, everything. No, stop breathing, and no, nothing after that.
Yes.
The zero. How far I can go?
Yes. That's not a question that the practitioner should ask. Right now, you have come to this point without any target, without any deadline, without any timeline. Right. So what has happened is your defilements have been depreciated. So until such time the defilements that is necessary to be depreciated at that level, you will have to just keep observing. So long as you don't expect anything and simply observe, what happens is you are getting purified. Now you are getting purified. When you get purified, you add some impurities, trying to accelerate it, trying to look for some objective, trying to achieve a target. Trying to achieve a target, having an expectation, means defilements. Now you don't have anything, at least the physicality is not there. That itself is a purification. You just observe that. You keep the continuous awakening there. Now this is a very crucial point. You may get bogged down in it because there is no materiality. So your attention should be so sharp. Your awakening should be so sharp. Although there is no matter, I am aware. Just slightly keep labeling if possible. Aware. Right. So this is the juncture
that you will have to go to the next step. The juncture to the next step is not doing anything. If we have come to this point without doing anything, simple observation until the breath faded away. So after that not doing mentality, non-expecting mentality, non-reactional mentality has to be even sharper, because you don't have anything now. But our mind is trying to promote us, motivate us, urge us to look for something. Because the consciousness is now has been shattered. Consciousness is not having a basis to place to land to put its foundation. Now it is trying to create a foundation. Should not give that. We should not choose anything. Accept what is there as it is. What is there now is nothing. You accept nothing. Now the question is, you are trying to accelerate. You are not ready to just observe. Yeah. You are always trying to expect something that happens, and that is natural as well. That is natural as well. What the Blessed One says is, they will have expectations of the future. They will have an agitation about the future. That happens when you come to this stage. But don't expect anything. Just be there, and it will take you. Now, when you come to this point, there is nothing for you to do. There are things to happen. So this is why, since you are talking about the physicality, in breath practice, Blessed One first says, Sato vasa sati, tato passa sati, which means you intentionally become mindful of the in-breath and out-breath. Then it becomes pajanati. Pajanati means you just become aware. And after that, you become sikkati. Sikkati means you become more disciplined with it. Siksha patana. So now you should be a man who is with that siksha, that settlement, because the materiality is not there. Especially pasambaya and kaya sankaram, asasitamiti sikkati, which means you are settled. You are not looking for anything for the future. You are not worried what happened in the, not worried what happened in the past. But nothing is there, but I am just observing.
And even if it happens, the day-to-day life is.
Now this is life.
Yeah.
This is what even Stephen was talking in the afternoon after doing his. This is what Stephen was also mentioning. Are you going to give it? Yes. Stephen was saying, after doing walking meditation, when he's walking somewhere, he is not walking in the usual manner. He walks in the same manner that he has been practicing walking meditation. Because once you introduce mindfulness to your life, mindfulness takes the lead. It has that capacity, it has that capability. We don't like it. So don't expect anything else in the day-to-day life. Day-to-day life will be like that. And that is what we want. So the mindfulness is so effectively giving the result, but we are refusing it. That's all. We don't want liberation. That is why the Blessed One says, this is the suffering is a noble truth. Even when we practice, we look for something to suffer. That's how our mind has been conditioned for such a long time in our existence. So it's not fault of any individual. It is throughout the spectrum. Each one of us are like that. So practice is going well. My humble advice is, you will have to get your reports cleared on a regular basis. 1.5 years interval is too long. All right, anything else? අනිත් අයට මොනවද කියන්න තියෙනවද? Steve, do you want to say anything? Just give me a sec.
Yeah, so obviously I've been last couple of days meditating quite considerably amount, and thank you for your guidance. The meditation session I had just earlier was once again different. This time I felt my body relax quite a lot to the tingling stage, where my body was, especially my legs, were starting to tingle. And then I felt this sense of something trying to just leave, not leave my body, but just sort of, it was like my presence wasn't there anymore. So I'm just trying to, didn't feel like I was leaving my body or anything, but it felt past the stage of any feeling consciously in my body. And then obviously that was towards the end of my meditation, around the last 5-10 minutes. Yeah. If you can sort of emphasize or explain what was going on there, because it seems to be a little different today, because I've had a few meditation sessions. It seems to be a little bit different each time. I still had that when I sat down, that sort of forward backward motion again. But yeah, towards the end of this one, I was getting more of a, like my body was tingling and then it all just sort of stopped, but I didn't feel I was here, but I didn't also feel like I was out of the body either. So yeah.
That is to some extent what he was talking as well. But the first thing that you mentioned, that you feel every time something different, is the key. Is the key, because that is how you can experience impermanence. And when you say that every time you feel something different, in a subtle way, in a very subtle way, mind is trying to say reject that. But this has to be consistent. This has to be permanent. You should be able to clearly map. That sort of a suggestion is there in between the lines. But that is exactly the cussedness of our mind. Right? So therefore, when you keep on telling these things, those things can be heard. So when you hear these things, your view with which you look at things change. So the mind, then mind still will suggest. Then you can have a laugh at our own mind, right? So therefore, you have been mentioning this ever since we started having a chat. So every time it is changing, and that is the nature. That is where that is what the Blessed One wants us to keep accepting, and you are doing it. And that is why you go to this tingling sensation. And why you have a tingling sensation is because this is not made of concrete. This is not rock solid thing that doesn't change. This body is changing each and every fraction of thought moment. Right? So when your attention goes so deep into the body, you start seeing the subtle vibration. And that subtle vibration, our mind is suggesting it is this, it is that. So what basically happens is, now your attention is into the gaps in the body. Since your attention goes to the gaps in the body only, you see the other particles are moving. That is what the tingling sensation is. So when your attention gets more and more into the gaps, right? So you start seeing less of the physicality and more of non-existence. So that is what is happening. So that's the explanation. One explanation. You can explain it in many different ways. irrespective of what the explanation is, the practice is in the right direction. So let it happen. No matter what happens, just let it happen and keep observing. Insidu eva.
Awesome, Bhante. It's been a while since I gave the report. Walking meditation. This is a report, Bhante. So I start my walking meditation by looking at the sensation where I touch the ground. And when I continue to do this for a couple of rounds, I can see the thoughts are starting to flood in, but I'm mindful. I'm not worried on what's going on. Then after a while, my mindfulness comes back into the body, and specifically to the to my legs, the legs and the feet and the fingers, thumb, and the how the joints are moving. So like that, it just zooms in, and after that, it's just zooms out to thoughts. So it goes like that for like few cycles throughout the walking session. So sometimes there are Dhamma reflections. So when there are Dhamma reflections, I think I get a pleasant feeling with it, and it just continues. And I'm again mindful. I don't want to stop. I don't want to do anything. Sometimes it just continues like throughout the session until it finishes. It was not there today, but sometimes it happens. So that's my walking meditation.
Yeah. The fact that you are zooming in and zooming out is what is happening in the entire universe. We call it Samvata Vivatta, which means there is expansion, there is contraction. So in our body also, in physicality also, there is expansion and contraction. So that is what we call Upadavaya, is appearance and disappearance. Regeneration and degeneration, right? And that is the physicality. But when it comes to mental, physical and mental process interconnection, it's also the same thing. Sometimes it goes zoom out to thoughts, and then zoom thoughts getting zoomed in, and body becomes more what you call prominent, right? So you can observe this phenomena. This is a phenomena that takes place only when you're mindful, only when you let things happen. This has been happening ever since we have been born, but we haven't seen this. But now we have deactivated the reactional mentality, and we are taking we are looking at our own body as if third person's body. Then we are starting seeing this, right? So what really happens here is sometimes you go to very lower or rather deeper layers of the physicality. When you go to the deeper layers of the physicality, your mental capacity increases, because the mind, when the physicality is prominent, when the physicality is active, the entire mind is on the physicality. But since your mind is not having now anything to observe in the physical level, there is an excess capacity in the mind. To fill that excess capacity in the mind, it wants something. So it is taking the things that are now not physical, but mental stuff that have been lying beneath the surface. They are coming into the surface. So this is why sometimes you see so many thoughts are coming. But still what you do is simply observe. So when you keep on observing, since you are not reacting, the mind is not having any place to have establishment. So since it is not establishing, then it tries once again, takes your attention to the body. And when that attention goes to the body the second time, it goes to a deeper layer of the frequency. So like that, by moving from one to the other, what actually happens is, this is the way defilements are getting depreciated. So first, you have achieved, you have observed some subtle layers of the physicality. As a result, mentality gets activated, and you observe that, and then that drops to a subtle layers of the mentality. Then the physicality gets activated, and you observe that. Like that, this goes on, and in that process, defilements are getting eradicated. And the Blessed One says, I don't exactly remember the Pali terms. What it says is as if goldsmith cleans the gold, put into fire and put into water. Keep brushing and then put into fire, put into water and keep brushing. So it's the same thing that is happening. It goes to one extreme one time, and the next it goes to the other extreme. And in this way, you are getting purified. So I don't remember it. There is beautiful Pali saying for it. It says toka tokam khane khane. No, it doesn't come to me. So that is the meaning of that, and that is what is happening. So just keep on doing that. And one recommendation I can make is, when it comes second time to the body, be a bit intentional and try to go deeper, if possible, into the body. Then you can dig it more, and it gets more agitated, annoyed. And that is important for the practice, and that can push you a bit more forward. Otherwise, this is organic way. You can do it that way as well. And when the next thing has to happen, it will happen. Or you can be a bit hybrid as well. Be a bit attentive when it comes to the body and try to go deep. Well, anything on the sitting?
The question I asked about the Dhamma reflections, do I need to allow them, or?
Yeah, Dhamma reflections, sometimes they come to disturb us. But what happens is, it is very clearly showing how desperate our mind is. Mind cannot give any sense pleasure now. Mind cannot make any agitation of the future now. Mind cannot make any worry about the past now. Mind cannot give you any hatred, because you are just rushing through all that. And it cannot give any suspicion as well. All the hindrances are very strongly attacked by your mindfulness. So the only thing left to be given to you is to get attracted is Dhamma. So it naturally comes, not that you take it. If it naturally comes, that's all. And just be observant it. And what happens is, with that, the practice also gets pushed into a next level. Because now what is coming is not, although it is desperate attempt of the mind to take your attention, but what it gives is Dhamma. And with those thoughts, your practice gets established, more and more established. Anything on sitting?
It's not there. My objective of mindfulness is most of the times it's breath. I start observing how I inhale and exhale. It used to be very similar to the walking meditation, and I watch my breath and thoughts come in, and I started to be mindful of thoughts, and they just fade off, and I can clearly see that they are fading off. And there's a stage where the mind gets like helpless, nothing to hold on to. So I observe that too, and it just comes to a stage where there is no prominent object, and it's just continue this cycle for 3-4 times. This used to be my regular practice, like for few weeks now. And yesterday, there was at this stage where these thoughts are fading off. Yesterday, all of a sudden, I clearly noticed that my mind is looking for something. Most of the time, there's nothing like prominent, but yesterday it was the breath become like it became prominent, and I could clearly see breath, like it was very clear, and I could observe throughout the breath, like from start to end, and so like that. I didn't get any thoughts or anything. I was just watching breath, like till I finish the session. So that's a special thing happened yesterday. But I was mindful throughout the session.
Good. It is important when you come to that point when the thoughts fade away, you try to stay without being more vigilant of the state that there is no object, right? So then naturally the Blessed One says your attention will go to breath. So when attention goes to breath, get as close as possible to the breath. Lokohamduro says, become Utsanna Asana. Get more and more, try to be more and more intense observation and close observation, right? So that, because now mind is sharp enough to penetrate. So the breath that is, as you say, you will be able to very clearly say beginning, middle, and the end. But you can use that skill to go a bit deeper into the breath. Or I would also say, go a bit deeper into the body. That's the same thing I said earlier. When the mind comes back to the body, try to see a bit more into the body, right? Then it gets a bit more aggravated. And then your vigilance level will be higher. And these stages, we have got to be very careful. And as I told him, there is a tendency that that serenity will overwhelm you. That will overtake mindfulness. So you should not allow that serenity to take over, serenity to overtake mindfulness. So you have to maintain the mindfulness. To maintain mindfulness, you have to be very vigilant. So it is good that the physicality is manifesting in some form. And when it is manifested, you try to dwell, go deeper.
you mentioned that, I recall like some more of it. Then when I was watching this breath like continuously, I could see some sensations around me, but my shape of the body was not prominent. But I can see the warmth. I felt the warmth like on my hands, but it's not regular shape. It's just a warmth. It's like I'm in a inside a white cube, but my body does not have a volume. My mind says this is the shape of your body, and mind itself says no, it cannot be the shape. Like it's like that. It doesn't agree with the shape I used to have. So there was such thing.
You feel the warmth means that that you don't recognize yourself with your hands, legs, body, and etc. But now you see the basic elements of physics. And in this case, what is prominent is the warmth. And it is just a nature. So when your attention goes to the nature, in the nature there is no form, there is no shape, there is no manner. But mind is not ready to accept. So it is just swinging between the reality and what it wants us to see. So that swinging again, contraction and what do you call? What's the other word? Contraction and expansion. It moves one extreme to the other. And so those are the signs that mind is improving. And when these things are happening, you are getting more and more peace, more and more calmness, more and more serenity. Therefore, you have to be very vigilant in these stages. If the mindfulness is to the fore, that's the key. Teruvan Saranai.
Is that okay if I speak in Sinhala? Saminas ගොඩ කාලෙකින් report එකක් දෙන්න බැරි නිසා report එක දෙන්න හිතුවා. සක්මන් භාවනාවේ ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ ඉස්ලාම වම දකුණ කියලා පටන් අරගෙන ටික වෙලාවක් විද්‍යාවට පස්සේ මෙනෙහි කරන්නේ නැතුව කොලේ feelings වලට විතරක් හිත තියලා ඇවිද්දා. එහෙම ඇවිදිද්දී ටික වෙලාවක් යද්දී සිතුවිලි වලටත් යනට සිතුවිලි වලට ගියත් අර sensations දැනෙනවා කකුලේ. එහෙම යද්දී එකපාරට අද නිදිමතක් එනවා ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ. බොහෝ වෙලාවට ඒක තියෙනවා. නිදිමත එන්න කලින් දැනෙනවා කටට කෙලවුණනවා වගේ. ඊට පස්සේ නිදිමතෙද්දී ඒක දිහා බලන් ඉඳිද්දී දැනෙනවා ඇස් නිලංකාර වෙනවා. එතකොට ඇස් පිය වෙනවා. සමහරලාට අරගන්න බැරි වෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ ඒත් එක්කම දැනෙනවා අපෝඩ ගලක් තියලා වගේ අර තද වෙලා වගේ. එහෙම දැනෙලා එතකොටම හිතෙනවා ඒක අර ඩීප් බ්‍රෙත් එකක් ගත්තා නම් ඒක හරියයි. ඒ වුණාට එහෙම ගන්න හොඳ නැහැ කියලා හිතෙනවා. එහෙම හිතද්දිම අර පේන් එක නැති වෙලා යනවා. ඒක ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ කීප සැරයක් එහෙම සයිකල් එකක් වගේ වුණා. ඊට පස්සේ සිටින් එකේ ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ ඉඳගත්ත ගමන්ම උදරේ පෙම්බීම හැකිලීමට හිත යනවා. එහෙම ගියාම ඒක ටිකක් වෙලා බලන් ඉන්න පුළුවන්. ඊට පස්සේ සිතුවිලි එනවා. සමහර ලාට සිතුවිලිත් එක්ක දිගටම ඔහේ සිතුවිලිත් එක්ක ඉන්නවා. සමහර ලාට ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ එහෙම ඉඳිද්දි සමහර ලාට දන්නවා ඒ සිතුවිලිත් එක්ක එහෙම ඉන්නවා කියලා. සමහර ලාට එහෙම අයිඩියා එකක් නැහැ. විනාඩි 10ක් ගියාට පස්සේ තමයි තේරෙන්නේ මෙහෙම ඒ සිතුවිලිත් එක්ක එහෙම කතා ගොතන් යනවා කියලා. ඒක දැන් මාස කීපයකින් ඉඳන් එක දිගට එහෙම සිද්ධ වෙනවා ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ. බොහෝ වෙලාවට මුළු පාරාන්කෙම වෙන්නේ සිතුවිලිත් එක්ක.
Walking එකේ ඇත්තටම ඇඟිලි ගහන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. Walking එකේ walking way වෙන විදිහට වෙන්න දෙන එක බොහොම හොඳයි. ඒකේ නිබ්බිදාවට හිත වැටෙනවා. මොනවාද හිතවිලි තියෙද්දී sensations තියෙද්දී walking එකක් තියෙද්දී ඔක්කොම එකක් select නොකර හිටියාම තමයි අර නිදිමත ගතිය වගේ ඉන්නේ. කියන්නේ select මොන හරි select කරනවා නම් අවිද්‍යාව පත්‍ය සංකාර වෙනවා. දැන් මෙතන අවිද්‍යාව පත්‍ය සංකාර කරන්න දෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඔහේ මේ තුන තියෙන්න ඇරලා බලන්නේදී අවිද්‍යාව හොල්මන්. ඒ අවිද්‍යාව හොල්මන් වෙන එක තමයි නිබ්බිදාවට වැටෙන්නේ. මේ මොනවාද දැන් රාග ද්වේෂ නැති වෙලා නිදිමත එන බව දන්නා මේ වෝක් කරන එක. ඉතින් ඒකෙන් එහෙම නිබ්බිදාවට වැටුණා කියලා කියන්නේ අපේ හිත දැන් හොඳටම වල්මත් වෙනවා. හිත හොඳටම වල්මත් වෙලා ඉඳ හිටින්න විදිහක් නැහැ. හිතට කරන්න පුළුවන් එකම දේ තමයි මේ ශරීරය දාලා යන්නේ. ඒ දාලා යන එක හදන එක තමයි ඔය පේන්නේ අපෝ හිර වෙනවා වගේ. ඉතින් ඒ වෙලාවට ඩීප් බ්‍රෙත් එකක් ගත්තම හොඳයි. කියන්නේ ඉතින් මැරෙන්න කිට්ටුයි කියන එකනේ. මේ මැරෙන්න කිට්ටු නවා තමයි දැන් තව හුස්මක් අරගෙන ජීවත් වෙන්න ඕනේ කියලා හිතෙන්නේ. ඉතින් ඒ වෙලාවට ඔබට ඕන නම් ගනින් මම මගේ වැඩේ කරගෙන යනවා කියලා ඉන්න ඕනේ. මරුණත් කමන්නේ walking. I was telling Steve when he's going to die, let just die while meditating. You will be born into a place for you to continue your mindfulness next time before good. So it's the same thing for you, and just continue, and you are doing it. So let it happen. So I just explained that just to encourage that there is nothing to poke fingers in. It is going well. But so far as sitting is concerned, it looks like more into the thoughts, and Nibbida is taking an upper hand. So therefore, in this case, let the thoughts be there, but try to see. Sorry, my English is maruna. Try to see whether you can have your attention to the body as well. Walking එකේදී මේ ඔක්කොම තියෙද්දි body එක තේරෙනවානේ. ඒ වගේ මේකේ thoughts තිබිද්දී thoughts වලට mindful වෙන්න යන්න ඕනෙත් නෑ. thoughts වලේ ගියක් කමන්නේ. ඔය අතරෙත් බලන්න පොඩ්ඩක් body එකක් තේරෙනවා.
ගොඩක් කලාවට ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ breath එකක් දැනෙනවා ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ. ඒ සිතුවිලි එනවා කියලා දන්නවා. සිතුවිලිත් එක්ක ඉන්නවා කියලා දන්නවා. සමහරවිට කතා ගොතන් යද්දි එහෙම කරන්න හොඳ නැහැ කියලා දන්නවා. ඒත් එක්කම breath එකක් දැනෙනවා, සද්දත් ඇහෙනවා, වේදනාවන් එහෙම දැනනොත් ඒවත් දැනෙනවා. එක්කම දැනෙන නැන්ට සිතුවිලි පාරංග පුරාම සිතුවිලි තියෙනවා.
ඒ කියපු එකේදී කතා කරන්න හොඳ නැහැ කියලා දන්නවා කිව්වනේ. ඒක හැමම කියන්න බෑ. කතා ගොතන්න හොඳ නැහැ කියන එකෙන් තමයි කෙලෙසේ. අපේ හිතේ හැටි තමයි කතා ගොතකොට යන්නේ. ඉතින් කොට යන්න ඇරලා අපි ඒක අපේට කරගන්න නැතුව හිතන්නේ මූ කතා ගොතනවා. වෙද්ද වියනම් ගණ්ඩ කෙනෙක් නෑ. හැබැයි මෙහෙම වෙන්න හොඳ නෑ කිව්වොත් අපි අරගෙන යනවා. ඉතින් බොහොම කෙන්ගෙඩියක් කරගනින් කියලා බලන්න තියෙනවා. ඒක ගැන කතාවක් කරන්න එපා. ඒ කොහොම යන අතරේ ඔය බ්‍රෙත් එක දැනෙනවා නම් බ්‍රෙත් එකට ටිකක් ඒකට යන්න බලන්න. එතකොට මේ අරයා නිකන් පොඩි සරුංගලයක් අරින්නනේ හදන්නේ. අපිට එතකොට රියැලිටි එකට තව පොඩ්ඩක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් එතනට යන්න දෙන්නේ නැතුව මෙයා මේ එයාපෝට් එකට ලෑන්ඩ් කරන්න නැතුව වටේ රවුම් ගහයි. ඉතින් අපිට ඔක දැක්කට පස්සේ අපිට පුළුවන් නම් බ්‍රෙත් එක පේනවා නම් හරි මම තව පොඩ්ඩක් බ්‍රෙත් එක බලනවා කියලා. ඒ ඉතින් මේ එහෙම කරපුවාම ඇවිස්සෙනවා. ඒක අපමණ ඇදලා ගත්ත හැටි මේ walking එක වගේ මරෙන්ට ගෙනියන්න පුළුවන්. යන ඉතින් හොඳ කරගෙන යන්න පුළුවන් සර්. Right. Okay. Any comments, any questions from anybody else? Or yeah.
It's mainly some comments, don't really have a report, and there's a question at the end. So continuing from what you said last week. So I did the walking where I'm not trying to observe, let's say, the body. I just did my normal practice, just doing nothing. And there I observe dimension of space. So I'm very happy with that because that's what I wanted to do. And I feel that it's a good balance between what I do with the sitting. So when I come to the sitting, I'm ready. I'm not doing like an internal conflict with myself on my practice for the walking. So come to the sitting, and there I was doing slow body scan. And there I observed vibrations and then expanding to the whole body. You did say, yes.
It expands or you would.
I would say I expand it. It may be the other way happening, but because it's always usually starting at the hands, like extremities, hands or the feet. And I go, well, I'll be scanning going down and then I see it. And then when I'm coming up, it's like following where I'm going. I would say that's both happening. So I'm forcing it and then maybe it's also happening. And then after a while, then I don't really have to do much scanning. It's just the whole thing is happening. And I'm not really doing anything after that. So I have to start it, then it gathers momentum and then it's doing it itself. I guess my question is, there's two like distinct practices I'm doing now in the walking and the sitting. And it's a very random question that I'm going to ask. So when the Buddha was, after he gains enlightenment, so the first person he thinks of is his previous teachers to expand or to explain the Dhamma, because he thinks they're the most capable people. And their practice is observing dimensions of space. Why does he think they are the most capable people? Like, because they're observing space. And for me, that's not a precursor for enlightenment. So I don't understand why he thinks they're the most capable.
Before that, do you see a relationship between the question and your report? So do you have a relationship or no? Okay, so I'll come to that later. Right. So the question is, why did Buddha think that the previous teachers are the most capable people to understand it? The reason is, it is a game with the mind, and to his knowledge, they were the people who had developed mind. So therefore, they had that sharpness in the mind to understand what Buddha is trying to teach. And even in Buddha's practice, he is also having all those states. And the only difference he is having is he's not identifying himself with those states, even in a subtle manner. So therefore, if I come one step further to Buddha's period, in Buddha's period, when he preached, only Venerable Kondanya attained the first stage of enlightenment. The other four, only thing he taught was the impermanence and non-self, and as a result, suffering. Those are the three things he was teaching the other four. He was not asking them, observe your breath and have the attention to the walking and all that, he did not teach. Because they had developed their mind to such an extent. But still they consider that state as permanent. That state is something that they can control. And Blessed One showed no, it is not. You are seeing it. The way you look at it is wrong. So change your viewpoint. So by having these reports, the simple thing that I do is, I don't know, either get rid of the suspicions that you have or change the way you look at things. That is what we call, there are different purification levels, right? Once your mind is purified, then the next one is the purification of the view, and then the purification of the suspicions. There are specific English terms for it, I don't remember. And then the purification of the path, and then the purification of the result. Even if you get the result, sometimes you will not appreciate the result. So you don't get the full benefit. So therefore, to answer your question, they were the most capable people Buddha knew, that who would understand his teaching. So that is why he taught. And then he went to the 5 ascetics. And the 5 ascetics was able to understand. They were living fortune. And now my question is, what is the relationship you see between the question and your report? You'll have to turn that on.
Yeah, I know the relationship. So, well, this is what I think it is. So it's like, oh, okay, I'm practicing, and then I observe this dimension of space, but it's not a precursor for enlightenment for me. But I guess my question was, with what I felt was, the Buddha went and saw them because, he thought they were capable people because they saw dimensions of space. So that's, I guess, my question is, what did he see in them? And this is, for me, it's not leading to it.
That's again not 100% correct. The answer is yes and no. We can't say precursor. If you keep the mindfulness to the fore, and if you can have the relationship between that and the body, then the experience is coming. But if you get engrossed with that only, then you will have to take some techniques to break that. Mind is sharp, but that sharpness is not leading to the experience. Self-realization. Self-realization is not immaterial. Go to the immaterial state, and even in the immaterial state, you will be able to see how it is materially reflected as well, manifested as well. So the Blessed One says, even if you achieve the result that is expected to enlighten, if you consider that as self, and if you overjoy with it, then you are not enlightened. Even that experience you will have to put under the scope of mindfulness, just another thing, and you keep going. So something has happened. And when you provide the report, the teacher knows what has happened. You don't know, because there are no signposts. This has happened, this has happened, this is depreciation, that is depreciation. But the experience is there. And not only the experience is there, you yourself see that you are a changed man. So Steve can't walk now. Yeah. Not that. No, he can't run now. He will have to walk by. So he's scared that he will do the same thing even in the workplace. So that is how the efficiency is getting increased, because you don't waste away energy unnecessarily. Energy is very effectively used. All right. Anything else?
I'll say one thing.
Yeah.
Mainly a comment. When you told me to do this, go and observe the body again, hated it. This was for me.
I was a bit reluctant as well, because I was not quite sure how you would take it. I can't tell why I'm saying this 100%, but I will have to. I was waiting. I was allowing you to go the way you are going without disturbing, to see whether there will have any turning point. But there were no turning point. So once it went to the climax, then I had to break the shell. To break the shell only I took this step, but good that it is happening. And now, since it is happening, even here, because you have that tendency, now this will be very serene, right? You don't stop diving into the body. When you get this sensation so soothing, so massaging, right? So let the massaging is there, but you keep as much as possible your attention to the deeper layers of the body.
I stop basically body scanning after it's like, let's say, started, and then I just, so should I continue scanning? I should not continue.
It is not necessary to scan. Scanning is the switching on the car. Now the car is running. When the car is running, the driver can't sleep. Driver has to be very alert. You have to be very alert on what's going on now. Right? So to be alert, I mean, don't put on cruiser. If you put on cruise, you tend to sleep. Go on manual, go as deep as possible. So I'm talking your mechanical language. Make sense? That one, sir. All right. I think we had a very fruitful discussion today. Big variety. We can pass the positive energies that we have generated today with the rest of the living beings in the universe. To do that, we will chant the traditional stanzas as we know in Pali, Ettavatacha.